Hi, I'm Dave Christie with the LaRouche organization. I am joined today by Karel Verecken, who has been a contributor to Executive Intelligence Review, but over in Europe runs what's called the Nouvelle Solidarite. He is the editor of that publication and was a contributor to the recent EIR special report that was just put out on the Great Reset, the Great Leap Backward, which people in this audience should circulate and get that pamphlet out widely. Karel's contribution to that was on a study of BlackRock Incorporated. So Karel, maybe you could give people a sense of how did you come to this research on BlackRock?
Well, to say it shortly is I started this investigation 4 years ago when the president of France, Emmanuel Macron, rolled out the red carpet to Larry Fink, who is the current chief executive officer of BlackRock. And it was not just an appointment, you know, all the ministers were there from social affairs, industry, finances, economics. And where did they meet? Well, Larry Fink was brought into a place called the Salon Murat, which is like the Oval Office of the Élysée, where normally the president meets with the ministers to decide the national policies. So this was completely unusual and shocking for me. So I said, there must be something, you know. So I started trying to find out why there was so much attention given by the president of France and other European countries to Larry Fink and BlackRock.
Well, and that's what certainly to me, reflecting on the power that something like Goldman Sachs has, or JP Morgan, those are sort of names that many people are familiar with, but where did BlackRock come from? How did they rise to this level of power?
Well, what I found out by looking to the figures of the shares they own and about the funds they manage is that, first of all, after 2008, there was a global metamorphosis, the complete transformation of the international financial system. People were leaving the banks. They went into what's called AUM, assets under management. For example, BlackRock has around 165 billion in its own balance sheets, which is 30 times less, 20 times less than JP Morgan. But in reality, BlackRock is managing close to $9 trillion, you know, which is quite a lot. So the way they got there was that, first of all, they shifted from active management to passive management. They threw out the traders. Traders are very expensive. They do a lot of errors. They lose your money, like Kerviel in Société Générale or the Whale of London. So they replaced them by computers. They found out that by artificial intelligence and IT technology, BlackRock created a special division of risk management called Aladdin, which means Assets, Liability, Debt, and Derivative Investment Network, Aladdin. This is a cluster of 6,000 computers. It's run by 2,000 mathematicians and technicians, and they are following about 8 billion of assets all over the world. If you buy a box of matches in the local grocery store, you know, these computers, they know what's the tendency is that the people are buying matches, you know, and we could speculate on the rise or the fall of the price of the matches. So it's a complete Orwellian system. That's the first point. The second point is that BlackRock is just the black tip of the black iceberg. You know, this is a shadow government, which means what? That besides BlackRock came up what they call today the big three. The big three are three asset management firms which control 80% of the entire market of index funds and asset management. These are Vanguard, BlackRock, and State Street. BlackRock is in New York, State Street is in Boston, and Vanguard is a Philadelphia-based financial operation. Together, the big three, they run $18 billion under management, which is more money than the entire Chinese economy, which is about to become the world's largest economy. Now, it's much more than that. First of all, they owe each other. which means BlackRock owns a part of Vanguard, owns a part of State Street, and State Street owns a part of BlackRock, and so on and so on. They owe each other. It's a completely incest, financial incest. Secondly, together, the big three have about between 12 and 17% of shares of the 10 major US largest banks. Take JP Morgan, Citibank, Wells Fargo, you name it, the 10 largest banks. You can read it in the article. Then they own their own opposition. The fourth largest asset manager is Fidelity, which is owned by BlackRock and Vanguard and State Street. So this is a totalitarian system where they owe the majority and the minority and the opposition. Then if you take the famous GAFAM, Google, Amazon, Facebook, Apple, and Microsoft, who owns them? Well, 15% of the shares are owned by the big three. Then you take the rating agencies, Standard & Poor's, Moody's, Fitch Rating. Who owns them? It's the big three. It's BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street. It's the same people. Who owns the 5 largest weapon producers of the world, which happen to be US firms, Lockheed Martin, Grumman, Boeing, Raytheon, BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard all have together 15% of the shares. So it's an incredible oligopolistical situation where this thing has become much more than the elephant in the room. This is a gorilla in your bathroom, and they love you. They will take care of you.
Well, so as far as the city of London, which is the financial power of the planet, their branch office in Wall Street, what is the relationship to this? Because clearly they don't let just anybody rise up out of anywhere. Like how is BlackRock connected to this, the old oligarchical financial powers?
Well, there are two ways of looking to it. First, you can connect the dots. For example, they bought up Barclays, which is a major wealth manager in the world, with E-shares. So there are British firms. Last year, they went into an alliance with Coutts, which is the bank of the Queen of England, very private, very distinguished wealth manager. Because, money attracts money. I mean, that. Yeah. The second thing is that the dollar isn't anymore controlled by the United States. The dollar became a world. This is it's a chip in a casino. It's a world casino economy run by the British, and they're using only the dollar as something you can speculate with. Since 1957, by the euro dollar market, the derivatives, banking, there are no more, banking is not a national thing. It's global firms. And the British, they are like Venice in the Middle Ages. They control the rules. They control the circuits. They control the communication centrums. They control the intelligence. So they are running the show, and they're using even things which are much bigger than themselves to play out their global geopolitical game. And now, the thing is now the current system is doomed. It will collapse. So they have to move to a new bubble, and the new bubble is the green economy. So they are taking positions into the green bubble. So BlackRock, up till today, they are very big in fossil fuels, much more than the European oil companies, for example, which are very big into the green. But they are making money from both sides, and they're preparing a smooth landing into the green nightmare, which will be paradise for them because they think they will survive by going this green.
Yeah, well, and of course, the entire rise of these asset management companies doesn't happen without the kind of political power to ensure that they can operate without regulation and so on. You cover some of this in your article. You certainly referenced the Macron, sitting in the French version of the Oval Office. But do you think there's anything within the Biden administration to oppose them?
No way. First of all, Larry Fink has been since 2016. He created a shadow cabinet with former officials of the U.S. Treasury Department, and they are ready. They're sitting in their office waiting that somebody gets in the White House, which will call them in. And this now happened, you know. So Biden, first of all, wanted to name Larry Fink at the Treasury Department, but this didn't. It was a little bit too obvious. So he only named this guy Adeyemo, who is the second. He was the chief of cabinet of Larry Fink, and he's now the second man after Yellen into the U.S. Treasury Department. Secondly, he named Brian Deese. Brian Deese was the head of sustainable investment in BlackRock, who's now at the head of the National Economic Commission of the U.S. president. So he's very on top of everything Biden could eventually imagine about restarting the economy. It will get green and it will get BlackRock. Even Kamala Harris, the vice president, named a chief economist, which is Michael Pyle, which is also a guy from BlackRock. So they have the Treasury Department, the president, and the vice president. So what else do they want, you know? So the issue, okay.
Well, and I think that's the question, because obviously it's BlackRock is indicative of this new system and certainly central players to this great reset, which, as we've covered in the pamphlet, the intention of that system is genocide, is depopulation. And so how do we crush these bastards? I think that would be our final question.
Well, first, I think we should really fight to have a kind of prosecutor like Pecora, you know, which would tell the truth on this. And the first thing would to declare BlackRock a systemically important financial institution. This is the biggest financial institution in the world, and they pretend that there's no risk associated with them. So if they would be declared a SIFI, then immediately it would fall apart because they would have to spend much more on proper prudential measures to protect us from them. You know, that's one point. The second point is if a prosecutor would open the file, you know, he would find conflict of interest, illegal market agreements. He would find insider trading, very plausible. He would find creation of cartels and trusts, which have been forbidden by US law since the Antitrust Sherman Act in 1890. So we need to wake up the people, and people should call their congressmen and senators and say the whole thing can blow up tomorrow morning because there's no regulation on the biggest financial actor in the US and the world. You know, in China is controlling the army and the big banks. In the Western world, it's the other way around, you know. And that's a kind of dictatorship, you know. Any free, even any person calling himself a Democrat or a Republican should fight for the Republican democracy and put these guys in jail.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's a good place to end. Put them all in jail. So one way to help for all of the people listening to this is to circulate this special report that we have out. Circulate it widely. There can be we cannot accept this green dictatorship that is being imposed by these central bankers and the likes of these financial institutions. So Karel, thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for having me.